Hey, welcome back to another Manga Talks video. We're going to go through some more of my recent reads, just a bunch of, just an assortment of different things that I've been reading over the past month. Haven't been really hauling too much lately, but I will show two books that I have picked up, pretty much the only two books, these two here. So they're both in English. We have The Girl Who Raised the Dead by Kawashima Norikazu from, of course, the Smudge line of horror manga, and then we have the second volume of The Legend of Kamui by Shirato Sanpei. So just briefly talking about this one first, I actually haven't started reading Kamui yet, just because I haven't had the time to, and I think I want to just sit down and, you know, these books are gigantic as well, and I don't know exactly what the release frequency will be for these volumes of Kamui-den, nor do I remember how many volumes they planned, but you know, I will pick them up as they come out. I think volume 3 is either out already or is coming out, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I would have to be really in the mood to read this. I don't want to be reading like this without paying too much attention to it, because it is such a big work and also an important one when you think about the history of Gara as well. But yeah, these books are gigantic. Like, for example, I've got this this picture book sized book here. If you compare it with this, it's nearly the same size, which sometimes I don't realize, but you know, these books are gigantic. So yeah, I am getting them slowly, and eventually when I am in the correct mood for it, I will start reading Shirato Sanpei's works, because this is probably, yeah, I haven't read any other Shirato Sanpei other than one-shots from Gara, so Kamui-den is going to be a pretty important, I would say, part of my reading journey when it comes to manga, and of course my love for Gara. So that was one of the books that I hauled, and also we have The Girl Who Raised the Dead here. I have actually completed this one and I really enjoyed it. In terms of the Smudge imprint, we've got two works now from Kawashima Norikazu, this one and Her Frankenstein, and I do love both of them. If I had to choose which my favorite was, it would probably be Her Frankenstein, but overall I really love how Kawashima Norikazu focuses a lot on the gray areas of in his works. So the story about this, without any spoilers, is essentially our main character, she gets struck by some sort of lightning and gains these powers, and the whole story is following the consequences of that, how we play God, and how that affects both ourselves internally and also the people around us. And yeah, it's crazy to see yet another Kawashima work being added into English, because if you have seen their works in Japanese, they can be really expensive. It does range, not all of them are like hundreds of dollars, but with Kawashima, what had happened was that towards the end of their career, they had pretty much just packed up, threw all their works out, and went away to, you know, who knows where. And so I think that was like, I'm not an expert on Kawashima, but that's definitely played a factor into why their works are so sought after today. And also, you know, the works themselves are, from what I've read, pretty good too. So yeah, The Girl Who Raised the Dead by Kawashima Norikazu, highly recommend this. I'm not going to spoil too much, only released a couple months ago. But in terms of other news from Smudge, really important as well, they have announced that they will be licensing a collection of Hino Hideshi short stories, and this is amazing because after the passing of Matt from Starfruit Books, you know, Starfruit Books was such a big part of bringing Hino Hideshi manga in English, and so after that was such a really devastating blow for the manga community. And so seeing that Hino Hideshi is still going to appear in English going forward with Smudge, which I think is a really appropriate place for Hino Hideshi, that I am so happy for. But rest in peace to Matt. They had brought through so many cool works with Starfruit books. I've showed off before their other Hino works on the channel, so check those out when you can. But yeah, and also on top of that, we have an English release of the Naono Yoshiko works coming out as well. I think pre-orders have already ended, but just to show you, it's going to be adapting this specific short story collection, which I actually have read already, but of course I'm going to get the English copy as well. So really interesting, because I never thought, or maybe I did, I don't know, I don't remember exactly how, like what my thoughts were at the time of reading Naono Yoshiko, because I might have said that this might fit Smudge, I might have not said it, I'm not sure, but I'm very excited because it's really cool that they're bringing this manga across to English, because for me it was kind of left field now that I think about it, because I'm thinking more of like the people from Hibari. Naono Yoshiko did not publish in Hibari, they published in other like shoujo girls magazines, so really excited for that. Keep a lookout. So 2 new licenses coming from Smudge, which is really exciting. And so those were the only 2 books I really bought in the past however long. So let's just go through a couple of my recent reads. This is going to be this is kind of like a picture book with 3 stories in it: Grandma, Only One Me, and Playing War. So this is by a duo by the name of Tanikawa Shuntaro, and who writes the stories, and also Miwa Shigeru, who draws the stories. And all of these focus on just different facets of growing up, living life. And what I said when I was introducing this book for the first time on the channel was that it really reminded me a lot of like King Terry, Hetauma like style, but it's not exactly that. It's kind of its own thing. But Grandma, for example, is a story about, all from the perspective of a boy, because all these stories are from the perspective of kids. Watching his family, pretty much how his grandma has gone from, you know, being who she was in the past to who she is now with dementia. And it's a really interesting look, and I love this imagery as well, looking at how she can't remember who her dad is. There's a really interesting comment at the end that the boy makes, where it's like kind of like a circle of life. The grandma starting off as a baby and then eventually becoming one herself. And I did want to comment on this. This reminds me a lot of Hayashi Seiichi, like the shadow, the facial expression as well, just the composition of everything. Pretty cool. But yeah, there's something at the end that I don't know where it is actually. Well, somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but somewhere he talks about how grandma is pretty much a baby again, which is really interesting. And then Only One Me is a story about a kid as well. Not sure if it's the same kid, but a kid not wanting to be with other people in his grade because he gets bullied. He also gets pressure from his parents to be what a man should be and whatnot. And so here it's him being resolute with who he wants to be, what he wants to do. And so throughout the book, there's a lot of interesting imagery. I think the main thing that stood out to me throughout all the stories is how the layout that Miwa Shigeru has, where it's extending the extraordinary into the ordinary, stuff like this, which makes sense. Everything is from a kid's perspective, so you have a lot of imaginative scenes that pop up through the work. For example, this, friends with the wind, friends with the sky, friends with the stars, and you have the moon coming in as if it wants to play with the boy itself. And I do love the fact that each of the stories have their own color palettes. They're all very, very nice. But yeah, throughout the whole thing, like my initial impressions of this was, Heta Uma, but it's kind of its own thing as well. I can't really outrightly say that, oh, it is Heta Uma, but it does give off a vibe of, like, the first thing I thought when I saw this was, that reminds me of King Terry. and I love the art style a lot. I'm not sure if they've done any other books, but I definitely will be looking at what other things they have if they are for sale. But the last one is about playing war, and as the name suggests, it's about a boy who kind of just does a role play of war, but it's a very clear satire of war, about the absurdity of war, the tragedy of war, all from the perspective of a kid who is just, imagining all of this. He's framing it as two countries that, they're the same, but as soon as some point of conflict is involved, everyone starts dying. And you have him imagining his parents getting into it, a very, very kind of morbid imagery here of all these corpses lying everywhere. You got the Statue of Liberty. And this very Evangelion type imagery of his mum, his dad, his parents, his dad, his sister, his dog as well. Very simple page here, but I do love that layout of just three heads kind of rolling on a very simple plane. And this is an amazing spread as well. Everything's gone, everything's dead. What am I going to do? So yeah, overall, really enjoyed this picture book, and I will be looking for more of their works, and just in general, I have been trying to look out for more picture books that I want to read, and specifically I think picture books like this where they're more geared towards adults. Definitely have picture books where I like those hybrid picture books where both children can enjoy and also older people as well, who can still look at the same story and find it entertaining but see it in a different light, like more is revealed because you are older, and that's the type of picture book that I prefer. So that's why I love Sean Tan a lot, but highly recommend this one. Not sure how rare this is, but it is a collection of 3 separate works into one, so I'm guessing it's kind of like a reprint, so maybe not as rare as the others. But yeah, really enjoy this one, and the cover is great as well. It's kind of like a collage of all 3 stories and different scenes in one. Very chaotic, but very captivating. And then we have a book here by Kanno Osamu. This is a short story collection called Summer Clouds that I read, and interestingly enough, I actually did not enjoy this book. I don't think there were many stories in it that really captivated me. So this is a hardcover collection that I bought maybe a year or 2 ago, probably 2 years ago now. What's really interesting is that, well, number one, it was limited to 480 copies. This is copy number 432. Funnily enough, under this little thing here, they put sky instead of clouds. So that was funny. But yeah, this was put out in 2009, and these stories are from Comic Baku, Yagyo, Gento, those 3 venues. But yeah, overall, it's funnily enough not my thing. I think definitely with my experience with Kanno Osamu, one of my favorite short stories that I read from him was during like a Garo issue. But all these stories, they are varied in terms of the stories. Usually a lot of adult topics about identity as well, but I felt like for me it was a little bit too sporadic and a bit too random to enjoy, and the art style was not really my thing. I think I do prefer for Kanno Osamu, now that I've read more of his one-shots, his stories where the art is a little bit more detailed, something like, I'll have to censor a couple of things, something like this. No, but he does have range where he does go back and forth between the two, but Yeah, some examples of stories is that some stories, there's a story about a guy wanting to be a woman by wearing a wig. There's a story about war, for example, reminiscing on war, about waiting for family members to come back home. There's a story about like a father abandoning his kid, marrying different people, etc., samurai, all that. But yeah, overall, not really my thing. But I am glad that I do have this book because it's quite a rare one. I do have more Kanno Osamu collections that I have not read because they have quite a number of them. I don't have all of them, but I'll say probably have most of them by now. So hopefully the other ones I will enjoy, but this one was surprisingly not my thing. But that's fine, they can't all be hits anyway. So that was Summer Clouds by Kanno Osamu, and just a couple of other sorted reads. So recently had read this Oshi X fan anthology comic. This one was okay, it wasn't my thing either. Just essentially an anthology about all these different stories of fans being over obsessive and parasocial with their idol Oshis. So for example, we have stories of fans being really like entitled, stories of one-sided love, of being scammed actually, tricked into thinking an idol was going to marry them, but it was also partly because of their delusion that they fell for the trick. We have another story here of an entitled fan. This one was the one about the scam. And overall I bought it because it was an interesting concept for an anthology, but the stories itself were not really, they didn't really stand out to me, but glad I read it. So yeah, that's the Oshi X fan anthology. And then I've got another short story collection here, 36 Degrees by Gotou Yukiko. Essentially more short stories on taboo relationships. So we have one where a woman is in an affair with her boss, and then her boss's daughter also turns out to be in love with her too. We also have mangaka ex assistant relationships. So Gotou Yukiko, from my experience and what I've seen from their stories, deals a lot with taboo topics, taboo relationships, and they are very uncomfortable at times. This one was actually kind of a wholesome one. This was just about a stepfather trying to bond with his stepdaughter by bringing her to a zoo. Very cute, despite the fact that he does not like animals at all. So yeah, a weird one, a wholesome one out of everything else. But in my experience of reading Gotou Yukiko, very taboo stuff. I have read Phobia from them. They did not write the stories for that, but they did draw the art for it. Even that was still very, very like in your face, very confronting. So yeah, I don't know if I want to read more Gotou Yukiko. I said this last time, but I think I've read enough of them now where a lot of it is, there's a big shock factor with a lot of them, but I feel like now reading a couple of them, I'm okay. I think I don't need to read any more unless I see a really interesting premise with that. So that's 36 Degrees. And then the last book I wanted to show off is Launch You in the Sky, which was an amazing read. So I did show this in a previous video. This is by Ito Q. It's a coming of age story, youth story, that sort of thing, where the premise is that our main character is approached by a boy from his same class that is absent all the time, asking him to turn him into a firework and shoot him into the sky, launch him into the sky. And it's a very the main topic that it deals with is the transience of life. So there's a reason why that boy wants to be turned into a firework. So he wants his ashes to be put into a firework and to be set off. But yeah, throughout the whole story, we see the relationship between the two grow as they both work on this project of building a firework themselves, because they can't just buy it. No one will let them either. But throughout the whole thing, it was such a great read because I love this rough sort of character design. Like sometimes it even reminds me of Taiyo Matsumoto sometimes. But it's a very emotional read too, because throughout the whole story we are focusing on building the firework, much like We Are Contactee, which I showed in a previous video. That one was building a rocket, but this one's building a firework. But as we are focusing on that, we see the relationship between these two grow, but also at the same time come to learn of the motives behind wanting to be turned into a firework, and it's very sad. Very sad. And I think towards the end, it is a very sudden shift in pace, which I was very thrown off of. Like, it came out of nowhere, to be honest. And although I did prefer for it to be a bit longer towards the end, if they could flesh it out a bit more, I still think that overall, the entire story of Launch-You in the Sky was a really memorable one. I can see this being published in English, not soon, but like, I can see it working really well in the English market. So yeah, I saw this just because right now I am keeping up more with recent manga than I am with Gekiga and finding the older stuff, just because it's my interest at the moment, I guess. So I am still reading Gekiga, of course, with like old manga, of course, with Kanno Osamu, but at the same time I am looking at recent stuff more, because especially now with Torch Comics, my experience with them, getting more works from them, I'm kind of locked into them. And so that kind of brings me to another topic as well, not with Torch specifically, but just with what I'm reading now. So just to show you here, this is not Torch related, but this is the current manga I'm reading. So this is Fear of the Mouth-Eyed Woman by Tatari Takayama. Rest in peace, they passed away a couple years ago. But just from the first couple pages that I have read, this is so funny. All I know is that this is based on two girls who are in the like news club at school, reporting on just wacky stuff that is happening everywhere. And there is so much slapstick in this. I love it. It's just, this main character Yoshi is absolutely insane. Like, for example, the first thing we kind of see of her is that her sidekick comes in saying, hey, I've got a scoop for you. I've got a news story that we can put out. And she just immediately starts fighting with her in this stupid way. And it's so good. I'm really, really looking forward to reading the rest of this. But that is my current read for now. I think definitely just from my experience with first couple of pages, I do want to find more Tatari Takayama, and even towards the end there's some really cool color pages as well. So yeah, that is a recent read. And also I don't have the book here, but I am also reading Solaris by Stanislaw Lem, the Polish science fiction author, because specifically I saw in this year's Tezuka Osamu like cultural awards, one of the nominations was an adaptation of Solaris, also named Solaris, by Takehito Morizumi, which I do love. And what I normally like to do is I like to read the source material first, especially if it's a book. And right now I'm really, really enjoying Solaris. It is really scary at some points too, but I think after I finish the original book, I will get the manga version just to see how they had adapted, especially with all the stuff, all the weird structures in the ocean that if you have read Solaris, it's a book about a couple of scientists on the planet Solaris, and which is pretty much like an ocean that is deemed to be like alive and intelligent, and it does stuff, and it's really scary. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how Takehito Morizumi has adapted Solaris into manga, especially with only one volume. But excited for that. But yeah, overall, those were just an update of what I've been reading and buying over the past couple months. And I will give kind of a sneak preview. I have bought more manga. Like in the past month or two, I really haven't bought much, but a couple new books coming in, not too many, but really exciting for me because they're kind of a gamble. I bought them and there were no pictures, but if they are what they are, then I'm gonna be really excited because it's from one of my favorite artists ever, just as a hint. And there are gonna be 3 books from them. They didn't have any pictures, so I really hope that I didn't get scammed and I actually got the books themselves. But I think it was a risk and a gamble that I wanted to take, because if it was them, then wow, I think I got really lucky. But yeah, other than that, I am still looking out for the upcoming English releases of Smudge, and we'll definitely be getting that when they come out. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of update video on everything. I admittedly have not been recording much at all, despite still reading. So I'm still reading kind of consistently, but finding the time to record is a different matter. So yeah, hopefully I will be back with another update video once we get those books. But we will see. Yeah, thanks. We'll see you in the next one. I forgot my outro. Bye.